Tuesday morning, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of Tuesday Talks. It has been a busy and fabulous week here in the Calhoun area, and especially with the Calhoun Church of Christ. People have started school. All the kids are going. In fact, we had a back-to-school bash Sunday up in Ellijay. That was awesome. We enjoyed having our time together. But we also had an exciting time here Sunday at the church. We are getting ready to kick off our new education program next week. So we were talking with the teachers and having a training session, and it's going to be an amazing time. And if you're in our area, we'd love to have you come and be a part of us, to come here and be a part of the Calhoun Church of Christ. We'd love to have you because we've got some amazing things that are taking place. So keep that in mind, especially if you're looking for a church home. We would love to have you come and visit. What I want to talk to you today a little bit about, just shortly and briefly, is a subject that I think, and if we're honest, I know that I struggle with at times, and probably most likely you struggle with at times, and that's the topic of forgiveness. You know, you may say, well, John, I don't have a problem with forgiveness because I know that I come to God and through Jesus and his sacrifice, I get forgiveness of sins. Absolutely. None of us have a problem with that. But what about when we got to forgive other people? I was talking with a friend of mine this week, and she was talking about that she's struggling because she has some built-up resentment toward somebody else and things that have been done to her. And while we were talking, what it came down to is she was harboring this resentment because she hadn't forgiven. And she hadn't forgiven that person for what he had done to her. And I go back and I think about my life. I think about experiences I have, and I said, you know what, I've struggled with that too. Because the idea of forgiving somebody who has wronged us is hard to deal with and hard to overcome. Yet Jesus says on the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew chapter 6, I believe around verse 15, it says, guess what? If you don't forgive other people their trespasses, then God's not going to forgive you. And that's a huge wake-up call, a huge slap in the face of like, well, I need forgiveness from God. And God says, yeah, don't forget to forgive other people. You know, it's part of the Lord's Prayer, you know, the model prayer that we have and that probably most of us in here can quote, where we sit back and we say, Father, forgive us of our trespasses as what? As we forgive those who have wronged us, trespass against us. And I think back to the parable in Matthew chapter 18. You remember that parable there where Jesus is talking about the servant comes to his master and has this huge debt, and the master forgives him of it. And then that servant had a servant that came to him and he owed him just a little. And he's like, no, we're going to throw him in jail until I get paid back. And then the moral of the story of that parable there is the master calls that original servant back and says, I forgave you all of this. And you couldn't forgive your servant this little bit? And he throws him into jail. Because the moral of the point is, we got to forgive. And I know that's tough. And I know that is an emotional response that we struggle with when we've been done wrong. But what happens is when we don't forgive and we're carrying resentment or we're carrying this weight on us, it does begin to eat away at you. It begins to eat away at our self-esteem, our self-efficacy. It eats away at our attitudes, and it really puts us in a bad place. And I know it's difficult, but I also go back to somebody who had a difficult time too. And remember when Jesus was on the cross, and what did he say as he's looking down at all the people that are yelling up at him and being rude and saying ugly things as he's hanging on a cross? He says, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And I want to challenge you this week that if you're harboring resentment, if you're carrying something on you that somebody has done to you, I want to challenge you to forgive them. Nobody says that you got to be best friends again. Nobody says that you got to like that person. But you do find that point in Scripture of forgiving other people, of forgiving when we're wrong. And I promise you that when you do and you let go of that anger and that resentment, you'll begin to heal on the inside. You'll begin to change and feel like the person that you need to be. And when I look at my life and I look about what God has forgiven me, how can I not forgive what others have done? Just a little point to think about. I know it's difficult. I know it's hard, and maybe you're sitting here watching this and say, "Yeah, I need to do that, but I don't know where to start." I'd love to talk to you. Give me a call. Send me a message at john@calhounchurchofchrist.com, and let's talk. Let's chit chat about this, because that is what is key and what our world needs. It's being willing to forgive others. Guess what? Just as God forgave us. Hope you have a wonderful day. Hope you have a fabulous week. And we will see you next week on Tuesday Talks.